The Green Ivy shoe shop was started by my parents, Natan and Laja Blicblau, in 1974, and they closed the business in 1985 when my father became unwell. He first started off life in the toe-top shoe company from 1961 after migrating from Israel until 1974 when the economy got so bad he had to change his tack. This story is really about my father and my mother, and I'm their son, Aaron Blicblau, and the recording was made in 1985. On the left you can see the original toe-top shoe company window with the old phone number 2413721, which I still remember to this day, although it stopped being a number over 30 years ago. And now on the right you can see both my parents, Natan and Laja, outside their shoe shop with samples of their shoes that they made, handmade in the window and to order. So this video is really about how shoes were made by my father. In the back of the shoe shop and factory, which was a one-man store, was what I call the leather store. Not totally well organized, but Dad knew where each piece of leather was and each color was. And here he sourced a piece of leather to make a special pair of boots in a special color for a unique customer. The first stage in the process was to click the pattern. On the left you see a metallic pattern being clicked or stamped out, and on the right Dad does it the old-fashioned way by hand, when sometimes he didn't have all the patterns and he made the designs himself. Once the pattern was made, it went into the workroom where it was stitched together to become an upper, and afterwards an upper. You can see my mother putting eyelets into the front of the uppers. This is where the laces went. And you can see in the top right hand an old radio, which I don't have anymore, but would be today worth a lot of money, I believe. Dad would then skive seams to put around the top of the upper to make it stiffer and reinforce it, and then stitch it all together so it would make one whole piece. After stitching the upper, then it was put onto a last where it would be tacked with small nails, and Dad would use the old-fashioned technique of putting tacks in his mouth and nailing it to the wooden last. There was tap, tap, tap in the middle photo, and then he would staple to give an intermediary type of connection for the upper to the inner sole. After this was done, then the sole was actually stitched to the upper in the stitching machine, both for shoes and for boots. And then adhesive we applied to the bottom of the sole to stick to the sole that would be put onto it, which is the outer sole. And that outer sole you can see in the right hand photo where Dad would apply adhesive again to the outer sole, and again in the left hand photograph. And by putting adhesive to both the outer sole and to the outer of the inner sole, this would ensure total adhesive of the components. Once they were stuck together, they were put into a press machine to ensure full adhesion, and this was done for dozens of shoes, as you can see on the right, and then they would be taken out of the press machine and put onto racks. Now they had to be finished off where the edges had to be trimmed. And the edges were trimmed by machine to take off all the rough edges, and then they would be taken to a fine trimmer where you get very fine ending and rounds of it. And that which you couldn't do by machine, Dad would still do it the old-fashioned way, and he'd cut small bits and pieces off by hand. Once that was done and the shoe was let to rest, it was taken off the last. The last was a split last, as you can see on the right, to ensure easy removal. Once the shoes were taken off the last, they were then taken to the front of the shop where Mum would literally finish it off. She'd brush it, clean it, take out any old staples, and ensure that it was packed away in a box so it'll be ready for sale. And here are both Mum and Dad admiring the handiwork of the boots that Dad made and that Mum had finished off. And that really is the story of the Green Ivy shoes by Toe Top Shoe Company.